King of Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents the Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us. Welcome to night 2 of Wrestlemania 37 coverage here on the Wrestling is Real podcast, episode 605. King of Podcasts here with you to go ahead and continue to talk about what happened with Wrestlemania, which concluded tonight. And this night was not as eventful, I want to say, as Saturday night. We're just going to go right into it. Quite a bit of notes to go and just get into. For me, this night was a one-match card. And that's because of the fact of, again, the lack of storytelling, the lack of build for some of these matches that they had that were all mid-card stories. If you had better storylines that came into this and some more heat, this would have made these matches a little more interesting. But again, with the lack of forethought, the lack of forward thinking from the creative team at the behest of, Bruce Pritchard and Vince McMahon and the others, this is where WrestleMania suffered. Because, that's not taking away the effort from all the wrestlers tonight. But again, this is the lack of, in the Raw storylines, especially, the matches we had from Raw really suffered tonight, and that's what made the most of the difference. And even the same thing can be said for, at least one of the other matches I could think of that we had from the SmackDown side. Because there was really one storyline I felt like that we had tonight on the SmackDown side that really suffered. Meanwhile, on the Raw side, a lot of those matches really came into play. So, as we remember, when you look at the matches we had on this card from the Saturday part of the event, you started off with Lashley and Drew McIntyre, which was the good part of Raw. And this is all Seth Rollins. That would be considered probably a good side of the SmackDown side. And then, everything else was just kind of there. Because remember, there was quite a few matches that were made as a result of what was going on Raw as opposed to SmackDown, when you think about it. So here's what we are. For the matches tonight, they had quite a few matches run short because they wanted to give a lot of time to the main event, which they did. And of course, tonight didn't go overly long. They had a few extra things they wanted to do in terms of certain segments, a lot of promos to lead up to it. And here's the thing, too. When they're going to lead up to these matches, if you can't tell the story in the ring, then tell the story through these kind of packages that you do on a regular basis. Because for me, when you look at trying to set up feuds, the two matches that did have lengthy storylines throughout, pretty lengthy, would be Randy Orton and the Fiend and the Roman Reigns, Edge, Daniel Bryan triangle, if you will. That had a whole lot of story behind it. Everything else was kind of brought up pretty quickly in the last 2 months. And that's it. We had one match that just got kind of just thrown together. But that's the other thing. So a couple of matches did get thrown together because some changes happened in what was going to happen. And that's what we had to go and deal with as well. Getting into the matches tonight, starting off with Randy Orton and the Fiend, Bray Wyatt. And this, we've seen in the storytelling, the problem is there's nothing that's really kind of connecting the dots in the whole Alexa Bliss storyline that has been brought on to this feud. Now, let's try to break this down pretty simple, right? As we know, back a while in the Thunderdome, Randy Orton did end up putting the Fiend away and burning him alive. Remember that. So that happened. And now we're here, and, we saw him come back, saw him return, and looks like Alexa Bliss has the power to bring him back. And then when he comes in tonight, it's as if whatever happened to him, his burns, all his scars were gone. Automatically taken away. So Alexa Bliss has black magic. And for whatever reason, there isn't any rhyme or reason as to what Alexa Bliss is doing. The Fiend is now a puppet of Alexa Bliss. But for why? And what is it? What is the Alexa Bliss thing getting? What are we getting out of her doing the playground bit and then turning into the evil character, spewing black blood out of her? Looking at something out of like a Billie Eilish video right? The first one that she came out with, I forgot the name of the song. But the thing is, Bliss actually helped Randy Orton win the match with interference. That's actually how it worked out. I didn't understand that at all. The match was an afterthought. Again, we've already seen these two over and over with the red light on. It doesn't make any difference. Again, we've just seen so many different things of the Fiend that we just don't care about. And it doesn't matter who he faces. This character, this company cannot do horror. They can't. I mean, the same people that brought you Kane and The Undertaker and Gangrel and The Brood, they can't do it now. They don't get it. Something happened. Or the Boogeyman. They don't have the wherewithal to create some character that just stands out and is cool. There's no cool factor to it. Now, there's something about Alexa Bliss that really is there, but again, I don't see it. And the storyline they give here doesn't have any real, I mean, you go ahead and we see it moving along, but there's no explanation. Everything is kind of like in riddles. Everything is bit in like pieces and storyboards, but there's no understanding to it at all. We just see it continuously go along, and that's the problem with this. That Alexa Bliss is this part of the whole storyline that is just kind of thrown in. It doesn't make, I mean, she is the Sister Abigail. We know that part, but we don't understand the reason for the power and what is her intention. Why is she doing all this? Like, is there a reason? What is the intent? What is the purpose? We have no clue, which makes this match have absolutely no sense at all whatsoever. And that's all I can say about it. The match was, short, thank goodness, but it wasn't good. And except for the effects that they gave us at the start of the night with the entrance of the Fiend coming back in, which is the one thing that we like to see, the match wasn't any good. The match was just kind of what we've seen before. And Alexa Bliss, the ending of this didn't make any sense. There was no resolution to this match. This feud could very well continue. And has anybody asked for that? And has anybody asked for the Fiend to continue? Now, what they have to do going forward is they have to explain Alexa Bliss's character. This whole thing of riddles and being in the playground and talking about the Fiend. Well, I don't want to hear her talk about the Fiend anymore. I want to hear, if we're going to have to deal with this, I want to hear her talk about herself, because she's obviously the one in control of the Fiend. She's in control of the whole situation. Let her become the Sister Abigail. Let her start talking like Bray Wyatt. Let her become who this is and become basically like the handler of the Fiend. I can't take any more of not understanding what's going on here. That's what this whole feud is missing. So we got what we got for that match. Kind of a throwaway. Moving along. Now, the match I will say next for the women's tag team titles. No expectations for this match. I mean, we know everybody's kind of buried Tamina many times over and over, and why she continues to keep getting chances and opportunities above others at WrestleMania. Doesn't make any sense. But Natalya and Tamina was an interesting tag team, nevertheless, and the way they set up the match. Now, what I did like of this match was Shayna Baszler, for whatever reason, finally got a showcase. We saw a lot of her offense tonight. This match, to me, it's really a heavyweight match. Like, this is a style of women's matches we don't get. I mean, when you look at who took on each other on the Raw and SmackDown sides, Sasha Banks, Bianca Belair, Asuka, and Rhea Ripley, they don't match the level or the size or the girth. And I am not making a knock here, okay? I still think they're all beautiful women in my eyes, okay? I like bigger women. Just saying. I'm a bigger guy. But for me, except for Shayna Baszler, this was really much like a heavyweight type of fight. You're talking about, if you had Kane or Undertaker taking on a team, it's kind of like that size or level, or the Giant and Mark Henry getting together. Like, it's that kind of like that super size type match. Because you're talking about, large wrestlers, bigger than your average women's wrestlers. And except for Shayna Baszler, that's just the point. And Shayna Baszler kind of fits in the role here because she's a different wrestler altogether. I mean, she doesn't fit in that. She's, it's just she's got a lot of strength and got a lot of tenacity. Like she's an MMA fighter, which is much different. It's almost like, again, the way that Ronda Rousey kind of fits in that, where she doesn't fit in with the rest of the girls in that sense. Not that they're not feminine, but I'm saying that this is like a different level of athletes out here. Again, I keep saying again, damn it. I listened to myself a couple of times on last night's recording, and I realized I said again like a million times, I can't be doing that. And I listened to a lot of their podcasts too to catch their takes on all of this, and was really surprised that they weren't as high on the first night as I was. But that's another point. In this match, Shayna is matching submissions with Natalya. Jax is taking most of the bumps. So the dynamic is really interesting here. So Shayna looked good. Stiff moves, going after Natalya and going after Tamina. And for me, Tamina probably got dragged to the best effort to date for her. It's not saying a lot. But the match was good. I like Baszler getting the win. Again, Baszler looked good. Now, because of the fact that Nia Jax was just getting kind of thrown around, she got body slammed, barely by Tamina, and she took a lot of bumps tonight. I mean, Shayna Baszler was the workhorse in the match. She was the one that in essence, did win the match for the team. Now, didn't see anything where we haven't seen anything at all about the initial intent of Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler as a tag team, where they were not getting along with each other. And for whatever reason, we're at this point and they're still winning. But now Shayna Baszler, once again, she's the one that wins this match at WrestleMania. And we haven't seen any kind of ripple of these two breaking apart and having odds with each other overall. It hasn't gotten there yet. Again, I want to see, I didn't say again like I'd used before. It's a different way I said again. Don't judge me. Don't mark me here. Okay. I gotta keep my mind on that, okay? I can't be doing that. That's gonna be a crutch. I can't do that. Moving along. As I talked about last night with Cesaro and Seth Rollins, this second night had another featured match with a pair of long-time Ring of Honor dancing partners. How can you not have a good match with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn? El Generico Kevin Owens. They've tagged together. They've worked against each other. They've had lots of matches with each other. So to have this match, the thing is, these first three matches right here, these are, regular level pay-per-view matches. Nothing felt like WrestleMania with any of these matches at all. I want you to make sure that you know that from me, because I'm sure you're going to hear that from a lot of other podcasters tonight. They're going to feel the level of WrestleMania feel for this second night was not what it was in the first night. And it's because the matches suffered because of the lack of storytelling. Once again, they do the same thing over and over. No change whatsoever to the style of storytelling. You have all this time in the off season. Number one, to build character development. Number two, to build storylines that can be built to other storylines to build heat. There is no heat being built. Not enough. And you have to be able to do this in mid-card matches for these matches to matter. You just can't rely on past relationships and how this works and just expect, well, we've already had Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens face each other a bunch of different times and the same result. But why do we want to see this match again? What else can they tell us of a story? They did. They gave us a reason to. Sami Zayn has changed his character to being a conspiracy theorist. Otherwise, that was the reason for Logan Paul to be brought into the space. However, that worked out. But when I look at this match, Corey Graves, first of all, I got to give him credit here because he did help out. Corey Graves, he understands social media. He understands the audience. And I feel like Corey Graves kind of did what an Excalibur would do over on Dynamite on AEW, because Excalibur knows the moves. Corey Graves very much is in the same vein. And Corey Graves, because Michael Cole, doing these pay-per-views, doing the WrestleMania show, and having, Vince in the ear, obviously, can get a little distracting, and he can make a mistake or flub or two here and there. And Corey Graves, for his credit, helped him out and called it out on the air. Because it was during this match that Corey Graves saved Michael Cole on missing move names. First, it was a corkscrew that was in the women's tag match, and that was when Corey Graves filled in what the move was, and then Corey Graves said corkscrew. And then calling Sami Zayn's move the Blue Thunder Bomb. It wasn't a Blue Thunder Bomb yet, but again, Cole and Graves handled this very well. So Corey Graves mentions, no, that was the Michinoku driver, so I want to save you because you're going to get attacked on social media for that. We're just going to go ahead and correct the record. Thank you, Corey Graves. I appreciate it. This podcaster does. And then when the Blue Thunder Bomb did happen, Cole even, emphasized it. So that was good. I enjoyed that. Now, Owens and Zayn, they deliver a good match. They didn't have a whole lot of time. 9 minutes, 20 seconds. But again, wrestling snug, stiff, cranking out all their hits. The match that you would want. Short and sweet. It was great. Listen, that's a succinct match. Those are two guys that could work. If you got to fill time, you let them do it. As we know, how many times we see those guys wrestle when they were wrestling each other in a feud? They're just good together. They're good as a tag team. They're good together. They know each other. They know wrestling. They understand. But we just can't see them out there without a reason. Sometimes when it's in WWE, you have to have a purpose. I mean, it's different if you're in Ring of Honor in another organization where it doesn't matter about the storylines. But in WWE, they expect more. The fans expect more. Now, they enjoy the match anyway, but was it WrestleMania worthy? No. Was it pay-per-view worthy? Yes. Any pay-per-view you want. But WrestleMania, yeah, it should be a certain level. And by the way, another podcast I heard today that was dissing the Bad Bunny performance and just completely crapped on it. I'm not going to name names, but for anybody to think that wasn't a good performance, somebody else said the same thing, you're off it. Because of the reason why is because we have to remember this is sports entertainment. To see Bad Bunny coming out yesterday and that he came out and performed as well as he could for a celebrity. And I'm sorry, the guy was not Harley Race or Ric Flair out there overnight. Okay? And this is not some classic Von Erichs feud, okay? For some people that want some old school feuding, they're not going to get that with Bad Bunny. We are grading on a curve here. Okay, we're not getting WrestleMania matches the level of, say Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker, Rock versus John Cena, Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant. We're not getting those. We're not getting Steamboat Savage. Okay, we're not getting Austin Rock. All right? Relax. No one should expect that level of match right now because there was only one match that got it. We'll talk about that in the main event. Now, moving along, Logan Paul gets a stunner. That's basically the reason he was here. He gets a stunner. It'll go viral. People will talk about it. Again, Logan Paul, he's just kind of like he's like a fly on the wall. He matters to people. And of course, people are kind of complaining about who Logan Paul is and why he's not a big deal. This is where you have to understand. If you listen to my media program, Broadcasters Podcast, I talk about celebrities and influencers. That's what Logan Paul is. You don't have to understand why he's famous. You should just know he is famous. He's not really famous for anything except for boxing, and just being kind of a dick. And I think he enjoys being relishing in it and his webcast. Impulsive. That's what they're about, him and Jake Paul. They're just guys. I don't know. There's an appeal to them. But if there's a younger audience that will watch wrestling as a result of a Logan Paul or a Bad Bunny, yeah, let it happen. For all of you older wrestling fans like myself, I wish you would be more like myself and be a little more understanding that the audience needs to grow from the younger end. So if these people from social media and from music and from the digital disruption, I call it, then let it be. We need to have these kind of guys coming in because obviously the Dennis Millers and the Al Sharptons and the Snoop Dogs are not cutting it anymore. Those type of celebrities bring nothing to the table. And for the fact of the matter is, Bad Bunny took the effort, was on television a lot, helped build Damian Priest, regardless of what the podcaster I'm not going to mention, whose name will not be told on this podcast. Damian Priest did get a benefit from being in this, being paired with Bad Bunny. And obviously, you don't understand the Puerto Rican connection. You don't understand the connection between him, because Bad Bunny is going to be associated with Damian Priest. And Damian Priest got the hot tag, which, sure, it could have been the other way around, but this way was much more appreciated. Because we all remember, Damian Priest was the one that got the hot tag. And for the fact that Bad Bunny took a lot of the bumps, took a lot of the moves, that's okay. But Damian Priest will now have to step up into that role, because Bad Bunny won't be there, and Damian Priest is going to have to ride that train of popularity, the level of being associated with Bad Bunny. He's going to have to work off of that and build up to it. I don't know. But Damian Priest looked like a star. And Logan Paul helping in this match, gave it a little bit of an appeal. So you had a reason for Logan Paul to come in. However this worked out. And maybe that's what the Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens thing was all about. Because for whatever reason, they were able to get Logan Paul, I don't know if they slid into his DMs or what, to get him to go ahead and be involved in WrestleMania in some way, shape, or form. But they did. And for that, if that's the reason they got onto the pay-per-view, rock on. Because if you can get more people like that to go ahead and promote the show, then you do that. Now, this is only the first hour of tonight's show, and I said it was a throwaway. It really didn't matter. The matches right here were not that important to me. I wasn't entertained. But they didn't matter in the lexicon of the level of the bar that should be set for WrestleMania. And I'm talking about a lower bar compared to what I just talked about of the classic matches. None of those were classic matches. There was no WrestleMania moment necessarily on any of those matches at all. You have to be honest with me. You know that's true. Don't try to go ahead and build this up as more as what it was. That's what I felt like for the first hour. Now, Riddle and Sheamus felt like a Raw featured match. This would be a match you'd see in the 9 o'clock hour to start things off. It didn't feel special to me, but again, that's because there was no build to this show. No build to the storyline. And you want to know why? Because Sheamus had been dealing with Drew McIntyre this whole time. Until all of a sudden, a backstage moment with the stupid scooter that Riddle rides around in for whatever reason to make him ride around in. And that's what caused this feud. Out of nowhere. And because of that, we get Sheamus winning the U.S. title. But again, it doesn't matter if Riddle has this belt or not, I don't think. But they gave him a belt. Has it made much of a difference? Probably not. But they did it. And I got nothing out of it. Now, in this, Sheamus struggled with the top rope Irish curse, which was a little bit of a botch. But again, you're asking a lot about trying to get Riddle up on that top rope to go and do that cradle type move. And you could tell Sheamus was pissed, and he had to go ahead and work around it, which he did really well. The match wasn't bad overall. The match was fine. Sheamus wins. It doesn't matter who gets the U.S. title. But what is interesting, this Brogue kick, the way that Riddle got hit as he was coming off the top rope, and he was kind of swinging in, and he took a shot on the lip. You got a busted lip after that. And what actually helped out is the start of a storyline, which is what we could have had sooner. Okay? What if we would have had this match happen? Riddle gets the busted lip, and then Riddle sells the busted lip, and you just see the look on his eyes, the anger piercing a hole into Sheamus as Sheamus is holding this U.S. title that Riddle just lost. That's the start of a feud. That's a feud that's getting started. That's anticlimactic to what actually happened with this WrestleMania match. You shouldn't have a feud start at WrestleMania like this. Okay, you have a weak storyline getting into the WrestleMania match, and then we get a feud that actually might go well because of the WrestleMania match. That's the other way around. Doesn't make sense. So this is where the problem of you're taking the focus off what you need to be doing with certain stars to build up storylines. That's why you need time and you need some resources. You need a bit of room to go ahead and build up the heat. There was no heat really in this Sheamus Riddle match, but right here, you could have done this somewhere in a storyline leading up to this match, and then you could have built this WrestleMania feud better. Well, now you know, but I guess Riddle and Sheamus will continue. Because they didn't end this feud. This is, you think WrestleMania would be ending feuds. This isn't ending any feud at all. Which is the other problem. What feuds did they end at all with what's going on in these matches? Like, that was a different story on the last night show, but not tonight. Anyways, I enjoyed the reason why Bad Bunny, one of the things he got after all the work he's done, working with WWE on his work, doing training in the Performance Center and getting to go and wrestle in the show, well, it would only make sense for Bad Bunny to get a little something for his performance. Probably not just besides maybe some fee he probably got. He probably got paid somehow. We don't even know how much he got paid to be a part of all this, or if he just really did it on his own accord. But what he did get, if he got anything, was a very cool tour promo. Okay, what he did give out that was actually kind of cool is Triple H, playing up the whole story of what Bad Bunny does in his videos when it comes to what he's doing in the music videos, the reason for the 18-wheelers, right? And how it's set up. If you've seen the videos for himself, for his album is called Último Tour del Mundo. And with that said, okay, that was the name of his album, which is still selling very well. And now he has a tour that will start in 2022. And he announced it here at WrestleMania. And the announcement was done at WrestleMania. Like, the official announcement was done at WrestleMania. So people got to see this announcement. And now we have websites that are picking it up. Just like that. El Último Tour del Mundo. The Ultimate World Tour. So he's got that set up. He already got all the dates. They put it out there. Excellent. Good for Bad Bunny. He took advantage of that. I like that. Now let's continue. The Nigerian drum match with Big E and Apollo Crews. It was nice to see Wally come out and do Big E's song. Same thing for I forget the name. Was it Ann Costello? Ann Costello on New Year's Day? I think it was the one that performed Rhea Ripley's song "Brutality." I guess it is. I forget the name. I wasn't really paying attention. That match was underwhelming. Who was the one that did the match? It's one of the. It's like the Miracle on 54th Street fight. It's like that. Was it the Broadway match that Damien Sandow was in, or Dolph Ziggler? I forget what it was. The one where they had all the instruments because they were in Nashville. It felt like that. It was one of those stupid gimmick matches. I mean, it just didn't make sense. The only thing we got out of this was Apollo Crews wins with the help of a new soldier now, which actually helps Apollo Crews' character. Babatunde from NXT, or you might remember as Dabba-Kato from Raw Underground. Remember he came out for like a quick hot cup of coffee, and that was it? Well, now he's here. He's the soldier. So Apollo Crews getting the soldier here to go and do this thing. That's pretty good. I like that. Makes sense. And Big E got a raw deal. I don't know if Big E just didn't get a chance to really get much farther, but the IC title run could have been longer, and there wasn't much to it. Now, I don't know if they just felt like, well, Big E doesn't have anything else to go and work on. We need to go move him up to the main event. Let's start working in that direction. Or they felt like what they were doing with Big E wasn't working, and the push they gave him where he got over Sheamus and they gave him here right here with Apollo didn't work. So I don't know if Big E they go back to the drawing board with Big E and find out what they're going to do with him in a singles push and try to go and get him back to another push, or what's going to happen. But I don't know what Big E does from here. Does he rematch for the IC title? And then would they feasibly try to find a way to put him up towards the main event? Or does he just go into another feud and they continue to build? But Big E's kind of like lost right now without any direction. That's not good for him. He's in the prime of his career. So they did the Hall of Fame classes over 2 nights. 2020 was last night. 2021 was tonight. That was good. And then we move along. Again, all these matches. I said again. Shit. I keep doing that. I'm not going to cut them out. I'm not going to edit myself. I will not do it. I'm going to force myself through. Stop doing that. Slap myself. There you go. Smack my hand for doing, I don't know, it's stupid. Anyway, Asuka and Ripley. Would it have been better if it was Asuka Charlotte Flair? Is anybody asking that question? Or are we just going to go ahead and just say that Rhea Ripley just deserved to be here, much as Bianca Belair? I don't get the appeal of Rhea Ripley. I don't. I mean, don't get me wrong. She's got a good look. Definitely has some size. Definitely is very good in the ring. But, I mean, what makes her different in the eyes of WWE in terms of character development, in terms of being that bigger than life star? What makes her stand out? Just the look? She's confident? What else is there? Rhea Ripley's not green. In the ring, no. But in terms of personality or in terms of character, you have to build more for the NXT character. And that's what needs to happen here. Is that we get Rhea Ripley now debuting on the main roster on Raw, but it is just the same NXT character, one-dimensional. That's not enough. And they might have thrown the belt on her tonight. She won it in a very good match with Asuka, who Asuka was basically going back to the NXT TakeOver, dominant 560-some-odd day champion. That's what Asuka looked like tonight. And really, they did fight what was a match that would have been on NXT. And it was good like that. Now, with Rhea Ripley, there has to be more to her. Just to get the belt on her now, I mean, to have her give the match was one thing. Now they got the belt on her. But, sure, you could say she earned it. But then what else? I mean, what do you do to elevate that belt? You just can't have her just be holding the title just to hold the title. There has to be something more to her that makes her stand out. And I don't know. They need to find out what that is. So there has to be something more with Rhea Ripley to get her there. Now, what they could do, which is what they should do in my opinion, is now the belt's on Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair, and Rhea Ripley can go ahead and start up their feud again, where Ripley did one up on Flair, and now we can see these two again. That's what should happen, as far as I'm concerned. What they had started back in NXT, and the whole setup there where Charlotte Flair went down and used her Royal Rumble win to go ahead and go after the NXT champion, sure, let's continue that now on the main roster. But let's build on that. Rhea Ripley has to be something more. Now, I will say I didn't watch enough NXT to really see any different shades or sides of Rhea Ripley that really stand out. But I haven't seen anything so far of what I have seen that got me to the point of saying, okay, Rhea Ripley has all the tools. The entertainment side of her, the part that makes her larger than life, that makes her different, that what identifies with her. Brutality, that's just like ruthless aggression. It's just that. What else do I get from Rhea Ripley that I can feel? I just don't see that. And to not have that full dimensional wrestler or WWE superstar here for Rhea Ripley to win this belt tonight took away from what the match meant and the significance of the belt change. But there's a lot of fans that are behind her that are not me. And listen, I'm not against or for the fact that she won the belt tonight. It's fine. But I think if you want to go somewhere, give her Charlotte Flair and let Charlotte Flair do what she needs to do, because now she gets this opponent, I hope, and Rhea Ripley can now be something else and find her character. Find out what she'll be more of. Develop the character that started in NXT. Let's develop some layers, Rhea. That's what I want from you. I want layers. I want multiple things to get into you about so that I can be invested in you as well as a fan. That's what I want. The match of the night is the main event. The only match that had a WrestleMania feel. Roman Reigns defending in a triple threat for the Universal title against Daniel Bryan and Edge. I was with Roman Reigns all the way through. I never felt Daniel Bryan or Edge would win this belt. A lot of other people felt a different way. But that's because for me, I don't want a part-timer to win it. Not at all. Roman Reigns is on TV every week. Now, Daniel Bryan and Edge have been around, but again, are they going to be out there regularly going ahead and running up the, out there and working all the time? No. And they don't have to. But this match had a great story to tell. Some people thought Jey Uso getting interference too much into the match, getting too involved. Well, you expect it. You might not like it, but again, Roman Reigns is the heel. He was a solid heel tonight. About as good a heel as Brock Lesnar is. Tonight, the crowd validated this heel turn. They showed how good this heel turn is, and Roman Reigns is now just as much of a heel, as the level of a heel, as Brock Lesnar, and that's huge. Roman Reigns tonight, I'm going to say this. You might disagree with me, but I'm going to say it right now boldly. You know how I always talk about that Mount Rushmore of stars, that WWE needs to have a star that is such a level and that everybody needs to be just like that? Remember I used to talk about the last 4 guys that WWE was able to go and build up from the ground up that are now superstars, right? And you need to have guys to be the level of John Cena, Batista, Brock Lesnar, and Randy Orton. You've heard me say that. Tonight, Roman Reigns enters that level. He is there. He is super main event level. This guy is the best thing there is. Now, in terms of draw, in terms of box office draw, in terms of popularity, in terms of getting the crowd, a reaction from the crowd, this is it. This was not, what Roman Reigns got was not go home heat. He did not get the reverse heat as a babyface. He got heat because he is who he is. Head of the table, the tribal chief, the bullshit with his cousin Jay and Paul Heyman. This guy's super heel. He is a monster heel in all the essence there is. Roman Reigns is one of the best things going today. And I am so happy that he won this belt tonight. He retained, and the way they did it was even better. Even Brock Lesnar, I don't remember, did this on a pay-per-view or at a WrestleMania. But this was something special. And I must give credit to Daniel Bryan and Edge for allowing that finish to happen like it did. That was impressive. And you want to talk about getting Roman Reigns over more than ever. He is so over now in so many different ways. And I couldn't be more pleased that he is so over. That's the mastery of the storyline, because even though you might have had a little blips in here, the storyline was so well built. And again, with Daniel Bryan being brought in the end was a different story. But again, the story being told from the Royal Rumble to now, all that included, you're talking about 3 guys that could promo cut with Heyman along with Reigns, and then Edge and Daniel Bryan have been cutting it nonstop, consistent. And my thing was, I did not want to go and see either one of these guys win the belt, because I don't want that part-timer thing again. It wasn't for them. This is where I wanted Roman Reigns to win. Now, again, they're going to be back in the same quandary. I just said again. But you know why I say again. Anyways, with Roman Reigns, we're now in the same Brock Lesnar position, because even Cole said it at the end of the broadcast. Who can stop Roman Reigns? The storytelling we'll talk about in a minute says everything. Where you have not built up somebody to take on Roman Reigns. You don't have anybody ready to go ahead and take on Roman Reigns. What are you going to do to fill that void? You got to build another star to be the babyface against this monster heel Roman Reigns that can overcome all odds. Who is on SmackDown that can do that? Who's coming back in that can do that? I don't know. It's a quandary. It's a conundrum. there's no answer for this right now. But anyway, into the match itself. So, first of all, Edge neutralizes Jey Uso with a DDT on the steps. Jey Uso gets taken out. Reigns then isolated to give Bryan and Edge some head-to-head. So we got the confrontation between Edge and Bryan a couple different times. And because of their animosity, that hurt both of them in the match, which is the way it worked out best for Roman. Because overall, you're saying that the match for Roman Reigns worked best because he got the chance to go ahead and win, because these two guys, they had such a hatred for each other on how things turned out and how how Daniel Bryan got into the match. And Edge just, he let his anger and his rage get the best of him. And Daniel Bryan, having to deal with Edge, got the best of him too. And that's the story they told throughout. So the reaction of this babyface, Roman is a great heel in this environment, jaw-jacking this crowd throughout, and the crowd just kept jaw-jacking back. As a good heel, Roman Reigns was getting shit on in the right way. This crowd was just talking shit back to him. It was wonderful. One point, just seeing that whole back of the main camera and looking at all those people in the ringside area, just tossing, just jaw-jacking back and just talking shit at Roman Reigns. And this was just getting eat up. I enjoyed it so much. And Roman Reigns just talking right back. I mean, he again was just very chatty and arrogant and cocky and just giving it to him back. It was so wonderful. And I think Roman Reigns relishes on the fact he can do this to the crowd. The fact he finally got to do this in front of the crowd after all this time must be wonderful. Like, it must be cathartic to be able to finally go and play this role in its full extent. It was so enjoyable. Roman, at one point, in a double submission. This was WrestleMania moment. You want to talk about like a highlight right there? The double submission. And Roman, I thought he actually was tapping out right there. But again, I said it. I hope you guys are laughing every time I do this, because it's hurting me right now that I do this to myself. But I'm going to call myself out. I will continue to do that. If I don't do it, you guys do it for me, okay? Please. Send comments on YouTube, or hit me up on the email, hit me up on the Facebook, the Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. You know where I'm at. King of Podcasts. Just call me out on this. Give me shit about it. I deserve it. It bothers me as a radio broadcaster for all these years that I can put myself in crutches like this. I don't say I don't say I don't do that. But I do your nose once in a while. And then I said, but again. And it's annoying me right now to no end. I don't want to do that. Back to my notes here. Then there's the animosity of Bryan and Edge. They start headbutting each other. And this is where the whole story changes. The plot twists. Because then Roman is kind of out of the whole mix, because he already kind of been taken out. And then Edge and Bryan start going after each other. And there we go. I also want to say, too, that, and I haven't said this enough, or said it at all, because I've not been super fan for Daniel Bryan and Edge throughout this whole time, like other fans or other podcasters out there. But the fact to see Daniel Bryan and Edge in this match working so well out there after they both announced retirements years back, which was a story that was told pretty extensively in this storyline. And to see them back and to see them work, it's very humbling to see that. And great to go and see that their careers did not get cut short. They were cut somewhat, but their redemption right now of being able to get back into the main event WrestleMania here, however they got there, and to see them come back is wonderful. I got to say that right off the bat. Now, Edge and Bryan keep screwing with each other, and that's the story they got right here. And then towards the end, Orton, of course, has this punt. When you talk about the diabolical move that really is, another level to a heel character, Edge has this concerto. And so did Christian doing the same thing. And so Edge takes the chair, starts whacking away at both Reigns and Bryan on the ground. Concerto to Bryan. So Bryan's out of it. And the story they tell at the end, where Jey Uso comes in, interferes, and that's where Edge, which has been his constant problem the whole match, takes his eye off the prize, takes his focus away. He's too rageful. He's too angry. He's too enraged. And because of that, Roman gives a spear to Edge, concerto to him, and then add insult to injury, the quote says, stacking up Edge on top of Bryan, and Roman lays over for the pin. In true heel fashion, classic heel fashion, a WrestleMania moment in itself. Incredible. And Roman Reigns was out of it. And these two grizzled veterans, and Daniel Bryan and Edge, took their eye off the prize. They let their animosity with each other get the best of them. And this should lead to Edge and Daniel Bryan fighting each other. Take them away from the Roman Reigns feud. Daniel Bryan and Edge should now start a program together. And let it begin. And let it ferment. And it will be wonderful. Make it for SummerSlam. You don't have to do anything right now. You can hold off on it. But that would be a great match for SummerSlam. For my own sake, we should see that match. That'll be wonderful. So overall, that's all my take right there of the entire weekend of WrestleMania. Storylines need to be better. And most importantly, the one thing I thought about last night going into today, listening to all the other feedback from the other show hosts, the other podcasters, to what was on Twitter tonight or this weekend, what I can think about more than anything else is spotlights have been put on several stars. When you look across the board, the names I think about right now, and that what I want to do on Wednesday is I want to focus on what these stars, how WWE keeps the spotlight on these stars and makes their stars of themselves burn bright. What do they do to follow up successfully on the spotlights they give on these certain stars? With that said, Cesaro got a spotlight put on him again. What will they do with Cesaro going forward? Omos got a spotlight. What will happen to him going forward? I want to say in a way Braun Strowman got a spotlight. I think he got a little bit of redemption in that match with Shane McMahon. Damian Priest got a spotlight. Now for Bianca Belair, she didn't just get a spotlight. She's got status now. She is now a standout. Now we have to see how she successfully defends the Women's SmackDown title and what kind of a champion she becomes and what kind of a character she becomes as a champion. What happens? How does she handle this push? Because it's no longer about appreciation and now feeling like, oh my God, this has all happened. Now it's happened. It's reality. Now she must continue to go forward and build off of it. That's one thing to get to the dance. Now it's to stay in the dance. Keep that belt. Keep yourself in the best eye of this company so they do more with you. And you become this big star at the level of Roman Reigns. Because now everybody on the roster should want to be at the level that Roman Reigns is right now. Because that's the box office level. All these in the spotlight want to get to Roman Reigns' level. It's not just because he's a man, not just because he's your Universal Champion. That's who it is. In the same vein, more or less, Sasha Banks should feel like that as well, but now you have to go and look at what does she mean. She's still a big star, but that 0-6 WrestleMania record has not been talked about on television. But there's something to be said that can be built in the storyline right there that still the story tells itself. When you look at the spotlight, who is being put on now, Apollo Crews gets a spotlight. Rhea Ripley gets a spotlight. So that's a handful of relatively young stars, newer names to the purist, loyal, Attitude Era following. You know, they're the ones that put up the constant Rock and Austin promos on TikTok, or relishing the past and complaining about why all the old WWE footage is not up on Peacock yet. Those guys, those gals, you want to get those stars that have been put in the spotlight on them. You want them now to be just as popular so that they become constantly reminded by this purist, loyalist WWE audience, the bubble, that they become as important as the stars they all look up to. They get to the level of Roman Reigns. That's what needs to happen. We'll leave it there. Thank you for listening in. Thanks for listening to all 4 nights of the coverage here of NXT TakeOver Stand Delivered, the Wrestling Show podcast, my normal regular program, and 2 nights of WrestleMania coverage. We're going to wrap it up there. And we will talk to you this coming Wednesday going into Thursday. Obviously, we'll see what happens with NXT debuting on Tuesday night and with Raw on Monday night. And, of course, I'll be on here talking right after Dynamite goes off the air. And until then, come back for another Wrestling Show podcast, because wrestling needs us. Thank you for listening to the Wrestling is Real podcast. You can find all previous episodes at wrestlingisreal.com or subscribe to the show on all major podcast outlets, including Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Follow the King of Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at King of Podcasts, and search King of Podcasts on YouTube, or type youtube.com/JBRASCO951. This has been a presentation of the King of Podcasts Radio Network.